Hello. Years ago, when our only daughter Emma was younger, I had a phrase that I would tell her when she left the house. Be smart, be safe, be sweet. A simple phrase, but I felt like it covered a multitude of areas for her. It carried weight, but it wasn't too weighty for young ears. It carried instruction, but it wasn't overly forceful or anything. And it carried caution, but it wasn't too scary. At least, that's what I thought. Emma might have a different perspective, and you could ask her about that. The older that I got, and therefore the older she got, I continued to use that phrase, but I also added 3 words. I know, surprise, it's 3, I love 3s, and of course, clearly I love alliteration. But these 3 words seemed to better fit her as she got older and better fit her season of life. I got them from a couple of different sources, from scripture, from Jonathan, and from a movie. I would send them to her in a hashtag via text, and they meant a lot to me back then, which is why I used them, probably more than they meant to her. But over the years, they've actually become more important to me. They mean more to me. They've grown and become a little bit more powerful for me and in this season of my life. I've spoken about one of these words, but not in context with these other 2. So please pardon some repeat, but hopefully it will be worth it. The hashtag was with grace, grit, and gumption. As I said, I talked about grace before, but it's such a beautiful word. Grace is a gift. It is God reaching down in all of our imperfections and our flaws and even our failures and filling in the gaps with His love and His strength and His provision. It's knowing that there's nothing we can do to earn His love or a relationship with Him. Jesus has already done enough to reconcile us and to redeem us. By His grace, we are. So Ephesians 2:8-9 says, "For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not from yourselves. It is the gift of God, not by works, so that no man can boast." We can't boast or brag about anything in and of ourselves for something we did or we earned when it comes to our relationship with Jesus. Being saved from eternal death and being reconciled back to our Creator and Father in heaven is a gift to us. He wants us. He chooses us. And His grace proves that. Jesus' grace is also a gift for us. He came to this earth and He modeled grace for us. There's a lot of scripture about the benefits of tapping into this grace, if you will. The Apostle Paul speaks of living with an affliction, with weakness. Now, the Bible doesn't specify what exactly that affliction is, and there's a lot of speculation and debate on what it is he was dealing with. But the point is not what he was dealing with, but it's how he managed through it and what he said about it. In 2 Corinthians, he confesses that he pleaded with the Lord to remove this affliction. 2 Corinthians 12:9-10 says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong." Are there things in your life, situations, hardships, difficulties that you would like God to remove? Have you gotten desperate enough to plead for God to remove them? I have. I'm not here to tell you not to do that. Not by a long shot. And I'm also not here to casually tell you that if you get a no or don't get an answer at all to a prayer of yours, that somehow you should delight in these hardships and trials. I know that I don't usually delight in those trials, but I want to first express, you are not alone. we are not alone. From the time that Jesus walked on this earth, his followers experienced all of these things, all of these hardships. And shortly after he was gone, as Paul says, his followers were still experiencing these hardships. Paul calls them weaknesses, insults, persecutions, difficulties. Other versions add the word troubles. Have you experienced troubles? You are not alone. This is not the first time someone has experienced whatever you are going through. And I don't say that to diminish what you're going through or diminish how you're feeling about it. I say that to give you hope. You're not alone, even if you feel alone. I love how the Message version translates this scripture. Instead of using the word affliction, it actually uses the word handicap. Again, this is not necessarily about a physical ailment. Maybe it is, but that's not the point. It may or may not be. And again, the point is not what this affliction or handicap is. It's how it's handled. So this is how the Message version puts it. What Paul said. He says, I quit focusing on the handicap and began appreciating the gift. It was a case of Christ's strength moving in on my weakness. Now I take limitations in stride and with good cheer. These limitations that cut me down to size, abuse, accidents, opposition, bad breaks. I just let Christ take over. And so the weaker I get, the stronger I become. That's true for us as Jesus followers. The weaker we get, the stronger we actually become because of Christ and what he did for us, because of his grace. The gift of tapping into that grace, which is sufficient to grit our way and to gumption our way through whatever we are walking through. Whatever trials, whatever tribulations, and whatever troubles. His grace is sufficient. So this week, I'm challenging us to a new perspective regarding our troubles. Let's quit focusing on the specifics and how they make us feel, and let's begin appreciating the gift of God's grace to get through them. His grace to endure, his grace to be stronger, his grace to overcome. Let's try and consider these troubles as opportunities to let Jesus take over and shine through us. The weaker we are, the less able to fix it we are, the stronger we become because we recognize our reliance on and dependence on Jesus. His grace is sufficient. And through this grace, I pray that the weaker we feel, the stronger we actually become. And I pray this week you are more aware of it and feel it and truly experience his grace. Thanks for being on this journey with me. I hope you have a great rest of your day.